All right, perfect. All right, Message Center announcements for October 10th. So there wasn't a lot of good media ones, but there's a lot of small things that are happening over the course, or that have happened over the course of the last month. So let's kind of get into those. So the first thing I do is I want to jump into this. I don't know how, I have a lot of customers that are asking about this, and I don't know how many of you guys have been utilizing Stream, and now it's called Stream Classic. But now there is a public preview for a Stream migration tool to go from Classic to Stream on SharePoint. So keep this in mind. It is public preview happening already, going into mid-October. That's what's going on. And then that's public preview until early 2023 when it's going to go GA. So when you go into Stream Classic, you'll see this area, you'll see this section called Stream Migration, right? So this here, you'll be able to see that. Then you'll be migration tool, and this will allow you to be able to move from the classic version into the newer version, right? SharePoint Online. It will do the audio and video for that. It will also do embedded metadata, any permissions that are associated to that. It even will make sure that there is a redirect. So if it went to the old classic, right, now it's going to go to the new location, there will be a redirect already in there so that you don't have to worry about that. So that is coming, that's actually happening right now. Again, it's should be part of your conversation internally, talking about, hey, this is going to be a change. If you already haven't started getting your company involved with Stream on SharePoint, which it should be already, right? This is just a good way to be able to get all that content over from the classic into that SharePoint side. All right. On the Viva side, so we talked about in the past, I think probably about 2 months ago, we talked about how now Viva Insights is going to start throwing information about your meetings. For instance, it's going to actually grab your categories and start doing reporting on it. So now in this particular rollout, starting here in mid-October to late October, you're going to get more of the visual information. It's reporting area. And so they're going to be able to see, you're going to be able to see trends. You're going to see past trends. You're going to see trends coming up. What's happened, right, from 3 months to last 4 weeks to even the next 4 weeks as far as your meeting distribution and what's going on. You're going to see a list of meetings by category, which is going to show you, and if you kind of, it's hard to see that from this, and this one here is actually showing you what meetings you have, what's your category, what is the time spent, right, in the past, and then duration and cadence, like if you have a regular cadence on that particular one. And then you're going to get more of a card. So the email digest is going to actually start having more of that information as well. So make sure that you guys let your users know that this is happening. Give them an update and update your knowledge base as well. All right, this is another one, which I don't do a lot with Excel. I do a lot with PowerPoint and do a lot with Teams, but you know what? There's a lot of organizations out there that utilize Excel, and they want to be able to collaborate on it in real time during a meeting. So very similar to PowerPoint Live as far as how I can bring that into a Teams meeting and be able to do what I'm doing right now. Now you're going to be able to bring Excel into a Teams meeting and be able to collaborate simultaneously on that particular document. So this is rolling out here mid-October to late November, and it's really sharing and then collaborating with an Excel workbook in your meeting, right? So just like I would normally go and say, I want to go PowerPoint Live, you'll have this ability in this area here to do Excel Live. And it's just going to say preview for a little while here as things get kind of figured out. But really, it's going to be able to give you it, and it's through the share tray. Right? The next thing, if you go into share tray, I want to do Excel Live, it's going to say, hey, you need to give permissions to those who are in the meeting to be able to access that particular spreadsheet. And so you'll have a permissions dialog box pop up. That's kind of the process of how it would work. This is going to be supported on your Windows desktop and Mac, mobile, web coming soon. And they didn't really give a time date on that when it's going to happen. And by default, it's going to be enabled automatically. Eventually, IT controls are going to be coming in the pipeline, as is probably moving from preview to actual launch. So keep that in mind. Make sure you guys let your end users know what's going on with this, because it's a change. It's a nice change, especially those who like spreadsheets and be able to collaborate on that. On the Teams front, there is this added capability of being able to toggle an unread, so you can see unread activities within your feeds. This is happening here early October. Preview is happening right now. Should be get going. And then standard release, you should see that here early November to November. But really, it's just a toggle within your activities feed inside Teams, so you can literally just waddle through all of that content you have and see exactly the things that you want to, and then you can untoggle that. Let your users know what's going on with it, but it should be a fairly straightforward addition to Teams. Another feature, and it has been coming out for a little while, it's kind of been delayed a little bit, but I wanted to bring this up to you because we have a lot of companies that are using Teams Phone. Teams Phone, just that capability of being able to have not only I can have meetings or quick calls with a colleague who happens to be on team, but if I need to call somebody outside of Teams and use their actual phone number, that's where we can then see more detail. For instance, let's say, for instance, we have a call queue set up where somebody calls in to that call queue and it's distributed to 4 or 5 different people. Now I'm going to be able to see things like when it comes into me, I can actually see, oh, I transferred this to Mary over on this side. So we're going to be able to see a lot more from not only just that group that is associated with a call queue, or when I transfer it, or even if I had forward that call, right? So I want to be able to see that information with a lot more detail. So think of this as like that V2 version of the calling app and getting more detail to that. This is happening here, general availability, mid-October to late October, with coming to the government late December. Again, make sure you're notifying your end users on this. It's a pretty big detail. All right, so that's the big ones. Now, there's a few other quick I want to be able to kind of mention. There's actually 2 of them on here that focus on whiteboard, and specifically with whiteboard, those are these 2 up here. It's all about being able to support links and online videos and be able to bring them into whiteboard, whether it be web, whether it be the whiteboard Teams version or the Windows app. So look at that and see that happening. It's already starting to roll out now. You're going to be able to see that end of this October at the latest. The other thing, which I think has been another one that's been hard to understand for end users, and this is definitely something you want to make sure that the end users get that information, is creation of a contact group in the Calls app, where if you actually go into contacts, you can create it from there, but it's kind of convoluted on how to be able to go and create that contact group. Now you're going to be able to do that inside the Calls app where you would see calls anyways. And that's kind of the nice thing about this update. So early October to late October, that's going to change here fairly soon for you. Additional access improvements for Microsoft List apps. So if, especially for Android, so if you are an organization that using conditional access to be able to limit apps, this is a new additional to that. So Microsoft List is going to be available. If you haven't heard that the Microsoft Bookings mobile app is going to be available here by December 1st. So make sure that if you're using Bookings, then utilize the web version of it instead of utilizing the mobile app, and those are going to be discontinued. Also, we have an exchange online customization message expiration. So this is where you have a scenario where maybe a message was not able to be delivered for some reason. By default, it will continue to try based off of your internal settings for the next 24 hours. However, you have this ability now, or will have this in mid-October to late November, the ability to configure that from 12 to 24 hours as opposed to the default 24 hours that is in there. Another big one, and I'm a huge OneNote fan, and this one is, and luckily I'm a desktop version of it from the Office 365 side, and I haven't been utilizing the Windows version, but this is a little bit of a change. Make sure that you understand, and if you guys are utilizing the Windows version of OneNote, understand this is going to end of life for OneNote for Windows 10 is October 2025. What does this really mean, though? That OneNote app on Windows, right? This is it's a pared down version of the desktop version. It's literally a Windows app. It's very similar to the web version of it, right? That's actually being replaced by what's called OneNote app on Windows. So kind of a consolidation of a couple. It is not affecting the one that we love, the Office 365 version of it, the one that where you can have, some really good macros. I personally like Onetastic in mine, but that is a capability right now, but it's not affecting that. So keep that in mind. And then finally, this one is a change. You want to make sure that you guys are letting people know as this is happening. This is targeted to be complete by late October. Find time. I don't know about you guys, but I use that find time a lot. It's actually getting renamed to scheduling poll. So it's going to be important to understand. It's a change, right? So this is going to be definitely something you want to notify. And this is going to be first. And if you guys are using Outlook Web, that's where you're going to see it first. It's basically taking it from being an app to a native feature within Outlook. They're going to start with the web version first, and then we're going to lump in the desktop, Mac, and Windows version early 2023. So if you're an organization that is pushing and utilizing Outlook Web, make sure people know about that now, and then be ready watching the Message Center for later on when that comes available later on. All right, I got a question. Jason said, do you know if you will be able to configure the OneNote app to look like Windows 10 version? Yeah, I highly doubt that, Jason. Just because the Outlook, that app really does look like the web version. There is ways, if you want it to look like that, you can literally in Edge create a web app from OneNote, drop it on there similar to it, but then that's at the individual level. Everybody individually would have to do something like that, but I don't think, I'm pretty confident I have not seen a way to be able to take the OneNote 365 OneNote app and make it look like that other app. So sorry, Jason. All right. Some updated ones. Want to make sure that you guys know what's going on. These are things that have changed, right? Dates have changed. So this is a big one, especially like being able to do collaborative annotations on the presenter screen. That moved, right? So GCCH, it's already out in standard or commercial, but GCCH, it's getting pushed back a little bit. DoD, it's getting pushed back just a little bit, so keep that in mind. Same thing with private drafts for SharePoint pages. That has been pushed back. Target release is going to be completed by mid-November. It was early mid-September, so they have a little bit more time to be able to get things up and running. A couple of other ones. There's some updates to the quarantine folder storage that's happening, so watch that. Basically with that quarantine folder storage, yeah. So basically what that is if you ever have a scenario where you're doing what they do is doing a 0-hour auto purge. And this is specifically with malicious emails. Typically, you can move to the inbox to be quarantined, but if there is no space in that, then it's going to go in the junk mail, which has a little bit more room to be able to handle that. It's also going to give users that have deleted messages from the quarantine, this push is going to actually give them the ability to be able to undelete those in the quarantine email area for the next 30 days. So it's kind of like a recycle bin for your quarantine for your emails. So keep that in mind. Speaker Coach is getting delayed, and that's a feature in Microsoft Teams where it's literally an AI speaker coach. It'll take a look at how you're presenting, patterns of speech, those types of things, and be able to give some feedback. That's happening here late October instead of late September. And then external access chat invitation. We talked about, I think this one last week or last month. And basically that gives you the ability to be able to say, hey, somebody externally of your company wants to be able to talk to you. Do you want to accept it or reject it? That's getting pushed back to mid-November. And then scheduling a chat. This is a feature that I've used a couple of times. I like that. It's similar to scheduling an email, but it's only for your chats in channel and in just private chats. So being able to do that scheduling of that chat, say, hey, maybe I remember something on Saturday. I jump in, I go in and I say, hey, send this at noon on Monday. That's really what it gives us capability. And it is only 7 days in the future, by the way. Language interpretation, literally bringing an interpreter into a Teams meeting. That's getting pushed back just a little bit to mid-October. Expanded reactions, we talked about a little bit before, got pushed back. And then the OneDrive sharing experience is getting adjusted as well. Scott, time touch on the announcements. Oh yeah, that one, the distribution lists in Teams. Did I miss that one? Give me a second. Oh, I did miss, I did remember seeing that one. Yeah, so that one, the ability to be able to pull in. So normally when I'm doing a Teams chat or utilizing it in Teams, it has to be a 365 or a security group to be able to do things. Now you're going to be able to have this capability, Scott, to be able to do and use a distribution list as opposed to a security type group. So it's kind of a nice little feature within Teams. And I believe that got pushed back as well. All right. And I think Joe is saying potentially from current OneNote, not Windows. Add app options potentially to get it to look like that. I don't know if you can get 100% that way, but all right. Some admin action pieces, things that get done before and of, right? So, or updates coming, right? So new admin PowerShell controls for loop components coming out here in November. Retirement of Exchange Online PowerShell with MFA, right? So utilize the V2 version of it. We talked about that last month. The SharePoint app bar temporary window to disable is from September to March. So you have a little bit more time if you want to continue to utilize the SharePoint app bar. And then restricted access to Microsoft Teams data via Exchange Web Services. This is the new one that came in. Basically be able to restrict, it's more from a development perspective. So if you're utilizing Exchange Web Services in an app that you developed, understand that we're going to restrict that, which means you're not going to be able to use that. You're going to have to redo your development utilizing the Microsoft Graph Teams export API to be able to pull that information in. And the export does give you the ability to do one-on-one chats, group chats, meetings, channel messages, all that, but it is a developer type application. All right. I think that's everything that I have, Michelle.